My apologies, team. We're just having some technical difficulties there. Please make sure you read the disclosure before we get started. If you're following along with us today, make sure you do in a demo account, as this is for educational purposes only. We are not financial advisors, and this is not financial advice. So we're running a little late. We're just going to jump onto the charts. It's got a few levels marked up here. We're right at the purple zone. We're going to go right into this green zone right here that we've painted out. Now the question is, are we going to sweep the lows in turtle before we come back up? We have a mixed model, and then with our spotlight indicator we actually have a mean reversion model. Mean reversion, the market will continue to come up, take out the highs, keep coming back down to this red line right here. That's easy to find. You just turn on your spotlight indicator, and right now London, the London session is sitting right inside of Asia, and their midpoints are lined up. So you take that midpoint, and the market is drawn back up here, and especially into this green zone. There's no news today, so what happens on days where there is no news, the market also comes back to fair value, which is the midpoint, which is the end dog, new day opening gap. So I see it ripping up here. The question is, though, does it want to manipulate down first? We have a daily fair value gap down here. So does it want to sweep down here, then come up? Or does it want to tap here and sweep out the high of the manipulation point? Trying to find it right here. What's right there? Right above the green. Just paint it out so it's a little bit more clear. So there's our manipulation range. There's the high, there's the low. Let's see which one gets run first. If we run up here, we could be looking to sell and take out the lows here. I'd rather it run the lows first, because then I know all the levels to the upside. I'm hoping it bounces off this purple zone, sweeps out the low, bounces off this 5M fair value gap, and then we drive up right into this zone here, and then potentially up to the midpoint. Get the open in about 16 minutes. Just going to wait it out. Yeah, so no news today. We do have big news dropping tomorrow, I believe. Let's check the economic calendar. So we have non-farm payroll, or non-farm, employment tomorrow, unemployment claims on Thursday, and the non-farm payroll on Friday. So on non-farm payroll week, we really want to be out of the market no later than either Tuesday evening or Wednesday super early. Starting to get that reaction that I was looking for. I want it to bounce off this purple zone, come all the way back down either to this 5M fair value gap or take out the lows and turtle and then come back up. This is where I see it coming before it makes any decision. So I'd rather it come here after it does the manipulation move, because once it does the manipulation move, all signs tell me that it wants to come all the way past here, up into here, even to the end dog, which is the new day opening gap that the indicator paints out for you. Got 14 minutes till the open. So the lower we get, the better, the higher the RR would be to come up into this zone. Could it go higher than this? As mentioned before, without any news drop, we could come all the way up to the end dog. And since we do have London sitting inside of Asia, that's the mean reversion line right there, the red. So we could come all the way up there. But I'd like to safely just say into this zone. So the lower we get, the better my RR is into this zone. I just want to see if it wants to sweep this first or bounce off this fair value gap. So if it manipulates down first, then all the telltale signs are there. We have a daily fair value gap here. Hasn't touched the midpoint. So if it sweeps down, taps this, and gives us a setup, I'll ride that right into this 15M fair value gap. That's a green zone. Again, this is NAS we're taking a look at. $12 minutes to open. So the reason I've marked out this green zone here, that's actually that's a blue zone on the 15. So if we go to the 15-minute time frame, so the indicator, where's dynamic, it paints it out. So that's the blue zone on the 15. It's a very, very highly algorithmic zone that the market is drawn to, even though we have many zones between here. This is the main one that I want to focus on. We also have a dark blue zone sitting right inside the end dog. So this is looking good. This is exactly where we want it. If it manipulates all the way to the bottom first, that's even better. And that's the dealer showing us their hand, I should say. That means they're going to sweep this. That's the manipulation move. Daily fair value gap bounce. Remember, you only have a sell model until you hit a higher time frame PD array. So I always say it's a sell model until it's not. It's a buy model until it's not. This is a sell model, but we just hit a daily fair value gap right here, this yellow one that I have marked out. So London hit it. We didn't hit the midpoint yet though, so that's why I think we might take one more swipe at it, hit it, and then suddenly we're going to be going up. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's automatically changed into a buy model. It just means that we're going to use that in confluence and ride it to at least the blue zone. Could it break past the blue zone and take out all these highs? Sure. But as mentioned before, we played safe, 1 to 3. I just want a nice 1 to 3 from either this fair value gap or after it sweeps from down here right into that red line. This is a CFD contract I'm looking at. So that midpoint is 24.77. Nine minutes to open. So right now we're bouncing off that purple zone, but we have another area right here where the market is pushing from. So it's wedged between these two. I just want to see it tap either this 5M and bounce off of here, or sweep this low. So remember, if we don't sweep this low and we bounce off of either one of these points and go right up in here and we take out the high, that's the manipulation move to the upside. That means we're going to see some gesticulation, might tap the end dog, and then it might head down. We want to use all of this in confluence. Seven minutes. So we'll see something on the 15M real quick. Just drop down to the 1. Now right around this time, on this next candle, we should see a gap. Usually does it right at the 25-minute mark. Not always. There it is. Now I want to see this stay open, and then I want to see which side it taps it to. That'll kind of give me a little bit of a bias if it wants to drop down first or head towards here first. I call that the magic gap. So in about 24 seconds, I want to see this thing stay open. Don't want to see it fill. Even if it fills, I'm going to leave this open. I want to see which side the market rallies on. Ideally, as mentioned before, I want it to push down into this zone. That just makes my RR greater when I take it up into this. So there you go. We've left it open. Now let's see if it taps it and does a run to the bottom. So we want to see it run those lows first, and then look for a setup to come back up into this 15M blue zone that's marked out in green. I should probably change that to blue to make it easier to see. Okay, so now we're tapping it, but we're running it. On the other side of it. Now let's see if it runs all the way back through and still takes out those lows. Or if it continues up from here. "24 seconds left in this candle. Most likely it'll rip right through and then head towards these lows. See, even there, they tried to manipulate people to going long here. So now we're on the other side. We're most likely going to bounce off this and head for those lows. Two minutes till open. Let's see. Remember, we don't make a move until that manipulation move is made. I want to see, is it going to sweep down here and then come up here? Or is it going to sweep up here and then set up for a push down? The one thing I have like a strong bias towards is, again, the blue zone. I know that it wants to tap this at one point. It's either going to tap it after it takes a sweep down here, or it's going to push past here and then push down. Either way, this is where my focus is. A lot of points of confluence here. We got about 33 seconds till open. We're still on the other side of that fair value gap. I'm going to change the color of it just so you can see it. So now we're bouncing off of it. Most likely we are going to take out these lows and that midpoint first from the looks of it. But we'll see. There is a 5M fair value gap here that it could bounce off of. Still gesticulating. Most likely we could take out the lows, bounce off the midpoint. We'll see. Whereas most people get FOMO, again, we're staying patient here. I just want to see which side of the range gets taken out first. That's our manipulation. We're back here at the 1M fair value gap. I mean, sorry, the liquidity void. this open gap. We're tapping it, rejecting it. Just more confluence that this thing wants to run the lows first, which is fine by us. Gives us more range, more of an RR when we drive it up into this blue zone. But let's see. Still just gesticulating there. Now it's hitting that 5M fair value gap. It'll most likely run that as well. And then right into the midpoint of this daily fair value gap. And this is what we wanted to see. I want to see it manipulate down first. And it gives us all this room back to the blue zone. Come on down. A little bit more. It doesn't come this close to not run these lows. Just bouncing off this, using this fair value gap as an inverse. So the second it crosses this line, we're going to be looking for an entry to go long. I'm going to change the color of this just so it's easier to understand that this is the blue zone. It's the 15M blue zone. Whoa, it's way too bright. Now, if it doesn't sweep the low and we get a push back into this zone right now, then this will become the manipulation. So then they left these equal relative lows, and that tells me that after it hits this, it wants to push back down. So that's why we wait. We wait to see which side of that manipulation zone gets taken first. Here's the low, painted out by the indicator, that green line. And here's the high that I had to go in and manually paint just because it's caught up in between all these boxes. So nothing's changed. Still want to see it take these lows, then punch up into this blue zone. Come on down. Taking its time. This is why we wait, as mentioned before. The dealer has revealed his hand. So even if they drive it up here, they left these equal relative lows. That means it wants to come back down after this. So we stay patient. Till our manipulation zone is broken, we don't make a move. Looks like it wants to head there now. So they left these equal relative lows, and it's now heading back into the blue zone. And let's see if it wants to go all the way to the end dog. But that lets me know that it wants to take out this manipulation to the top side and push down. Again, not a coincidence. I was hoping we'd take out these lows so it was definitive. But the fact that they wanted to turn it back around here lets me know that after it hits this and takes out the top of the manipulation zone, we should be looking for a sell. This would have been so nice from down here all the way up. I've said this many times before, but it couldn't be more obvious than in this example. Just because I know where it's going doesn't mean that I'm always going to be able to get an entry. Or rather, it doesn't always mean that my RR, my risk to reward, is going to make sense. I was hoping for it to sweep these lows, set us up, and that would have solidified the fact that that's the manipulation move. That's the manipulation. Now, keep in mind, if it rejects from here, there's the top of our manipulation move, or manipulation zone, I should call it, right at the top of the blue. So if all of a sudden we drop from here now, take out these lows, it's still then going up here. This is still the manipulation move to the downside. The manipulation zone helps you. It protects us. Because they're trying to, as the zone is well named, they're trying to manipulate you. So until it breaks that, you're not going to manipulate me. So if you want to run it up here, now run it back down, that's fine. This is even better. I wanted it to break the bottom of the manipulation zone, hit the daily fair value gap, and then set me back up. I want to see this midpoint touched. Question is, when are you going to do it? Are you going to do it after sweeping this? Or are you going to run it into it right now? This is why you got to stay patient. And sadly, sometimes remaining patient means that your TP gets hit without getting a good entry into it. But I've said this before, day trading is not everyday trading. If the setup's not there, then it doesn't bother me. So until the midpoint of this is tapped, this is still in contention. Neither one of the manipulation zones has been swept yet. And this is pretty much happening because there is no news. So when there's no news, I've said this before, market just sweeps liquidity back and forth and eventually heads back to fair value. Fair value is the new day opening gap right there. So the fact that the new day opening gap is also above our blue zone, that also made this a very, very favorable area that the market was going to come up and tap. Neither side of our manipulation zone has been swept yet. I would have ideally liked to have seen this stay completely untouched and then swept down here. But it doesn't mean that we're not going to use this fair value gap, this sweep, to then look for an entry to go back into this blue zone. We're going to proceed with caution now that it's done a little bit of a back and forth and it has touched the blue zone technically. But we're going to see what we get. Because now it could actually run this midpoint and maybe even tap this. There's a 4-hour fair value gap down here too. So now we have to see where it wants to turn around. Let's see if we actually swept it. No, we did not sweep it. There's no fair value gaps here for it to tap. So I might just be using that same red. Let's see if I can bring this to the front. Visual order. Change anything? No. So I might just use that same opening gap. As its propellant to push it down. Now we got 3 equal relative lows. So it just wants to run this now to the midpoint at least. And we'll see what happens after that. That's our manipulation, which makes this that much more interesting of a zone for me. But I want to see the right setup now. Maybe even on a 5M. See a 5M fair value gap be created first after that area is swept. Tap that 5M fair value gap, ride it back up into this blue zone. That's now our play. Remember, you got to be adaptable. You got to adjust as the market unfolds. Look at this already. 1, 2, 3, 5M consolidating candles. That's not a good sign. And that's because we have no news today. So there's going to be a lot of manipulation today before it finally decides to push in the direction. I'll stay on the 1M until it clears one of the manipulation sides. This is already turning into the kind of market that I'm not interested in trading. Look at this. This is not this back and forth. This is pure manipulation. This has nothing to do with buying and selling pressure. But again, we're patient. Till our manipulation zone is run, we're patient. I know I got a lot of levels here marked out, but each one of these is important. We're back at that opening gap, that red box right there. On the other side of it. Remember, it's all about pattern recognition. Already I recognize this is not a favorable pattern. If all my targets are up here and it hasn't swept my low, not only not swept it, it's created equal relative lows, which lets me know it wants to push down, then this makes it more of a harder job for me. I wanted to break the bottom and ride it back up here. So if it's gesticulating here, and we have a mean reversion model, meaning that red line also becomes an area of interest. There's the end dog. Both of these are areas of interest. So I was hoping we'd break down so we could ride it right into all these levels. So now we're going to play it from both sides. Now if it rides it up, first takes out the top of the manipulation zone, those were really valuable areas. Those were the areas that I was 100% safe in assuming that we would reach. But if we reach those first and manipulate to the upside, then our target becomes these equal relative lows. But then I want to see a proper 5M bearish fair value gap presented tapped to ride it back down. Let's turn on the spotlight indicator as well just to see where our EMAs are. We're bouncing off the 238 on the 5M, or sorry, on the 1M. The longer we do this back and forth, the less I get interested. I've said this before, it should be easy. We haven't hit the 61% yet. It's our golden zone. So even if it like gesticulates back and forth and then sweeps out these lows before coming back up, again, that's what I wanted, but you want it the way you want it. It's almost like going to a fast food place and ordering something. Can't remember if it's McDonald's or Burger King that has that slogan, have it your way. You want it your way. You don't want it the way they're trying to force feed it to you in this ugly pattern. This lets me know that they don't want us to get in. But looks like we're still going to push down first, which is a good sign, but choppy. There's no need for it to be gesticulating at this point right here. Blue zone still untapped, end dog still untapped. Manipulation zone still intact, has not been broken. Here we go, let's see if it breaks it this time. I still trust the manipulation zone. Even with all this back and forth, I can decide just to stay out of it, but I don't go against the manipulation zone. Just a whole bunch of back and forth still. Let's see if it's going to create another equal relative low and head back up, or if we're going to finally sweep that low. Excuse me. We're red across the board. It makes more sense for it to take out the lows, manipulate here, catch people, and then drive this thing up. Keep in mind, that's what you're up against. When you decide to trade, just know that they're trying to manipulate you. That's part of the algorithm. So if that's something you guys can't handle, know that ahead of time. This is not for everybody. They're trying to trap you. And they're not happy until they do so. That's a lot of traps right there. A lot of people went long, a lot of people went short. We didn't do anything. We're waiting. For both of these indicators, the main thing is capital preservation. For the spotlight indicator, until we get that confirmation, we don't make a move. Until we get that retracement, we don't make a move. And for the blue zone indicator, until that manipulation zone is broken, we don't make a move. Only then has the dealer's hand's been revealed, the true hand. Look at this, equal relative lows. There's our manipulation. It's dancing at the edge of our manipulation zone, but it has not manipulated yet. So either it punches down and then goes back up into the blue zone, or it punches up and it takes out these equal relative lows. But until that move is made, either one of those moves, we sit back and we just watch. Can it get boring? Sure. And that's a thing too, by the way. There's the fear of missing out, and then there's just people who sit there in boredom and they're like, I want to do something today. I woke up, I'm up early, I'm looking at the charts. I should probably be making a move. No, you shouldn't be. Not unless all the confluence is there. If they run this thing back up one more time, that lets me know it's going to be a messy morning. It's already a messy morning, but also let's talk about lot sizes or contract sizes, depending on if you trade futures or CFDs. When you see a day like this, decrease your lot size. Even if it's still sticking to your bias. Right now, our bias is still intact. I want to see it run these lows, go up into these highs, into this blue zone, sorry, I should say. But I'm going to decrease my lot size because it's a messy day. Messy days mean a lot more consolidation, a lot more time. So it's going to take longer for my targets to be hit, most likely. And I'd rather go in with a lower lot size. You can't have the same lot size for every trade you take. It all depends on the probability. 70% higher probability, have your full lot size that you've decided on, that 1%. You have a messy day, a lot of consolidation, a lot of gesticulation, drop that lot size. Quarter of the size, half the size, whatever it is for you that makes you feel comfortable. I take it to a quarter of my lot size. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 equal relative lows here now. And we have still not taken our manipulation zone. Wants to. Hasn't yet. Three minutes till 10. Usually the news helps with the manipulation. When they have no news, this is why they do this. They just sweep liquidity back and forth before ideally returning to the new day opening gap. New day opening gap was actually tapped many times during London and Asia. We'll take a look at those moves as well to see if those would have been cleaner sessions. Don't for a second think that you're missing out on anything. You haven't missed out on a single thing yet. That's the whole point of this strategy, the whole point of this indicator. You don't miss out. You can't miss out. The only thing it does is it protects you from the manipulation. Nothing here. For anybody who decided to ride these, there's no 1 to 3 here. This turned around so quick it didn't even give you a fair value gap entry. Then it dropped back down. Just a whole bunch of back and forth. Here we go. Are we going to finally take that manipulation zone? For anybody who can't see it clearly, I'll paint it out. And the funny thing is, that's also the top of our dealing range currently for the spotlight indicator that's being formed. There you go, finally. After all that drama. Now we want to see if it gives us an entry. Oh, I'm waiting for a 5M entry after that. I want to see a 5M fair value gap be created and tapped. I'm going to ride it into this blue zone. At least that's my goal. Let's see. Let's see how long that takes. Or if it just keeps dropping. Remember, if it keeps dropping from here and doesn't give us that entry, that's no skin off our nose. Look how tight that range was. This is our first fair value gap on the 5M that's even being created, the NY fair value gap. Let's see if it stays open actually. Still has 3 minutes left. So remember, when you're looking for an entry, ideally, you want to get above the series of candles that drove you into that fair value gap. So here, that was the high, that was the high. All these candles are in this candle's shadow, so technically that's your high. for now, unless the market keeps dropping more. Ideally, we want it to drop a little bit more. Let's change the color of that. That's what we call the inducement. That is the top of the series of candles that drove the market into this fair value gap. So ideally, you want the market to get above that, then tap a fair value gap. That just makes your bias stronger, increases your probabilities. Those are the telltale signs that the market wants to now start moving up. But if we break the low, which is technically better because then it brings our inducement down much further, then it becomes this. This would be the pullback. There's a 4-hour fair value gap here. It only makes sense that the market wants to tap that as well. We're still red across the board. There you go. Now we move our inducement to here. In doing so, we've also created what we call, actually let me check the 5M first. So it's all still part of the same candle. Okay, no, we're still good. Wanted to make sure we didn't do a double break to the manipulation side. Anytime you have a double break to the manipulation side on the 5M, that means the market wants to go much, much further, possibly clear out all your levels to the downside before it comes back up. So there's our inducement. I don't like the fact that there's a 4-hour fair value gap sitting down here, but not much we can do about that. So as soon as this is cleared, and if it presents a fair value gap on the 5M, then we're interested in taking that long back into our blue zone. Obviously proceed with caution, lower lot sizes with all that manipulation. We still haven't taken the inducement yet. Remember, we want to take that inducement and leave a fair value gap open here. Those are the conditions. There's a sliver of a fair value gap being created right now. Let's see if this next candle clears this white line, comes back down and taps it. That could be a signal. And get rid of this. So there is no more fair value gap. That's been taken out. Remember, stick to the rules. That's what's going to protect you. In exactly 24 minutes, if we have not presented that setup I'm looking for, I officially switch over to the spotlight strategy. Then I have to wait for confirmation, retracement, and extension. That's my own personal rule. Then I only use the blue zone levels, those blue zones that have been created. I use those as a confluence to see if the market wants to bounce off of and or is drawn to that zone. But the rest of my strategy is 100% sticking to the rules of spotlight. Let's see if we have another breakdown into this 4 hour. So this isn't considered a double break yet. This was the manipulating candle. We still have a single progressive leg. So we're sinking further now. Looks like we're going to tap this 4 hour fair value gap first. We have another orange zone below that. That's an old new week opening gap that was apparently never touched. So we now have tapped that 4 hour fair value gap. Let's see if we get reaction off of this. Now since we've gone down even lower, our inducement's changed as well. Our inducement is now there. Remember, as the charts move, as the market is moving, you got to move all your levels sometimes. So 20 EMA right there on the 1M. There's our new inducement. We've tapped the 4 hour fair value gap. We manipulated down. So even though we're red across the board, it's left these equal relative highs here, here. Remember, anytime you're looking at equal relative highs, they move this way. If this had swept this high, I don't consider that an equal relative high. It's only if there's a high, and then a lower high, lower high. So this was the lowest low. This was a little higher. This came down, down, down. That gives it incentive to sweep that area. So now we're dropping down even further. And this is, again, this is what protects us. We haven't entered a position yet. We haven't seen a setup yet. If the market wants to just continue to drop from here, that's fine. We never got in. We were looking for a 5M buy setup into the blue zone, which has not presented itself yet. So we're digging deeper into that 4 hour fair value gap. With 20 minutes left for the spotlight strategy and the range to be formed. And this is how a day can change up on you. I actually thought this was going to be a clean day. Thought we were just going to manipulate down, find our entry right into our blue zone. You got to stay on your toes. Be ready. Change as the market changes. If I'm not mistaken, I believe today is also when some of Trump's tariffs come into play. So we're getting a liquidity void right there. Maybe this could be, our inducement's also moved. It's now down here, so it's taken inducement. Right there. Now let's see if it leaves anything open here. Touching the 20, 22 seconds left. I want to see a fair value gap. I don't like taking these liquidity voids or gaps. So until I see a 5M fair value gap created, I'm not interested. We got about 15 minutes, or about 17 minutes. So if we see a 5M fair value gap be created and tapped, I'd be interested in taking that. Not all the way to the blue zone. I'm looking at this target now because the blue zone's pretty far away. I'm looking at these levels right here and possibly the purple zone. Remember, these are areas you want to take your TP. So if the purple zone is lower than the blue zone, aim for the purple zone. Look at how much gesticulation happened here. The market bounced off of here. This is a very highly algorithmic zone. And if this one is before this one, then where's the safest place to put your TP? Right here. Doesn't have to get all the way up there. Play it safe. So on the 1M, we've already got the setup to go long, but I'm waiting for it on the 5M. The 1M, it's left this fair value gap. We've taken inducement. Let me change the color of this. And it looks like we're already tapping it. I'm going to get rid of this daily fair value gap now. Already tapped it. So until I see this set up, because we had such a big drop, I want to see a 5M fair value gap be created. And then hopefully there's enough room between there and the purple zone. Unless it wants to just run this. Three, two, one. So it's officially violated this fair value gap. This is the other reason we wait. We wait for that 5M fair value gap to be created. These 1 minute fair value gaps are flimsy. Even if we come back into it, it's still violated. It closed below it. About 14 minutes left before our range is formed. Then we officially switch over to the spotlight strategy. Now on the 5M, I want to see if we have a double break yet. So there we took out that low again. Deeper into the 4-hour fair value gap. We adjust our fib levels as well. This late in the game, we're continuing to still drop. Cutting right through this 4-hour fair value gap, right back to this old previous NWOG. Do we have any other levels? The daily lows are down here. Still nothing of interest. Red across the board. We've already hit these levels. I'm not looking for a sell. Until our spotlight indicator gives us a bearish confirmation, I mean. But for this time being, I'm just waiting. We've manipulated down, which lets you know that the market did want to move up. Let's see if we've created any new blue zones after that. On the 15. No blue zones. Here's the first 15M fair value gap. This becomes an area of interest. Get rid of this. So we went all the way down to that old NWOG. Very, very bearish day. So from the way they rallied, you could tell that they did not want anybody to get into this. We didn't manipulate down, so we couldn't have taken advantage of that buy. We didn't manipulate up, so we couldn't have taken advantage of that low, that sell-off. So they didn't really leave us with anything today. But at the same time, we didn't get trapped either. We bounced off the purple zone and just pushed down. I like to match my zones with the manipulation move. So if the manipulation move had been right here, for example, that would have increased my probabilities and added to my confluence. And we manipulated and we're bouncing off of a highly algorithmic zone. That at least makes sense. This is a whole bunch of nothing. Didn't really leave any fair value gaps behind either, except for these little ones, these slivers. 8 minutes. I'm not really interested in anything now. I'm going to switch over to the spotlight strategy. If we get that spotlight strategy and we get a bearish confirmation, I'll look for a retracement back up into the fair value gap here, the NYC fair value gap, and then possibly a drop into the daily lows. Those levels are 19,887. We have left all these equal relative highs here. Remember, the market hates straight lines. Could it run all the way back up here? It could. But as mentioned before, I'm now more interested in seeing where we get that confirmation for the spotlight strategy. Is it a bullish or a bearish confirmation first? And it's got a long ways to go before it gives us a bullish confirmation. We've got a red box. We've got about 7 minutes left. Might just make a move from here. Let's see what it's doing on the 1M. Still just sitting there, nothing even created on the 1M yet. About 6 minutes before the spotlight strategy is fully formed. Just one of those days. Nothing really being presented to us yet. If you look on the 5M, this is all one progressive leg. From here, all the way past the manipulation move, all the way down. That means there's been no double break. So it's still clean, which lets me know that it wants to retrace deeper, unless we get that double break, which we haven't yet. Usually we get a double break somewhere around here and lets me know that this thing just wants to keep tanking. So this is rare to get this long of a double break, or sorry, long of a leg, and have it be one consecutive leg. The second we clear at least this high, then we'll know. There you go. Finally, it's cleared the high of the previous candle. So now if it takes out this low, that's a double break. That immediately changes our bias. We're not even looking for a buy. That's also on the lower time frame inducement. So that was their candle, drop, drop. Already taken inducement here, fair value gap. I'm not interested in a buy. 3 minutes left for the range formation. I'm waiting for that confirmation, retracement, and extension from our spotlight strategy. I think it can come up at least into this zone. Right now my bias is sell. Now let's see what kind of a confirmation we get. It's about 50 seconds for our spotlight strategy to be fully formed. Then we only stick to the rules of the spotlight strategy. Okay, so our spotlight strategy is now fully formed, our range. Now we're just going to wait for a confirmation, retracement, and extension. And right now our bias is to the downside. We still do have a mean reversion model from Asia and London, but we dropped well below London. Now it looks like we're getting that retracement back up into this zone, back to the 20 EMA, and we'll see what the market wants to do. But until we get that confirmation, I'm just sitting patiently now. The blue zone strategy is from roughly about 10 o'clock Eastern Standard. And then after that, if we haven't found a move, then we just patiently wait for our spotlight confirmation. So let's just wait and watch. Most likely retrace back up into this 20 EMA, which will then make this an early retracement. So if we are going to drop again, we'll be looking for the first fair value gap that presents itself to ride it to the daily lows right here, the green line. Otherwise, it could punch through. Remember, we did manipulate down from the blue zone. Just wait and watch. But I can see it coming all the way up here to this level, which happens to be our NY fair value gap as well. I'll fix this on the 5. What level is that? 2211. Most likely come up to 2211 here. and then decide if we're pushing down to get that bearish confirmation or if we're going to push right through this and get that bullish confirmation. But I think a lot of decisions are going to be made right at this level right here. I'm not interested in taking a buy into this. Keep in mind we're red across the board. And we just had a massive drop. But we did also manipulate down, which means we could get a deep retracement into here, back to the 50, back to this box right here. Either way, I'm looking for a sell-off, most likely from here or here, and then that bearish confirmation. Just because you know where it's going doesn't mean you want to head in that direction. I do not want to take this buy into here and here. I want to see if it sells off from here and here. Be patient. No fair value gap created on the 5M yet. Just be patient. Well, the market's dropped quite a bit. It means it didn't really it hasn't delivered fair value. This has just been a seller's market. So now it's got to let people in. It's got to move up to an area where buyers can get in. From here to here, for example, from here to here. That's why this becomes a very important area. Market's drawn up here because there hasn't been too many inefficiencies that it's filled. Let's see if we get a reaction from here or if we tap into this zone. Still waiting for this zone though. Let's see. Remember, if it's unable to get up into this fair value gap, which is the first presented fair value gap of the range, that means we're extremely bearish. So on the 1M, there's a 20 EMA running under there, this fair value gap. Got about 2 minutes to see if this fair value gap stays open on the 5M. About 59 seconds left. I'll refine this fair value gap after this candle closes. Still want to see it get up here. I want to see what it does from here. Right now the purple zone and all these areas of interest, they're right in the golden zone, 61% of that bigger range. So we filled in this fair value gap on the 5. The 1 still stays. Let's see if it bounces off the 1. There is no 5M fair value gap. When you have this big of a drop, you can believe that the market's gonna gesticulate quite a bit before it even heading up, if it even wants to head up. That's why we wait for these telltale signs. And the longer it stays here, the more I'm inclined to believe that it'll just drop from here. We will not get past this, but we'll see. (20 minutes to 11). As mentioned before, I'm not interested in taking a buy. I'm waiting for that confirmation, retracement, and extension. Still just gesticulating. So I've got this 4-hour fair value gap under us. So we bounced off the N, this old N log. bounced off this 4-hour fair value gap, or bouncing. Let's see how high that retracement gets, or if it just wants to fold and give us that bearish confirmation. Just waiting it out. So this down here, if we are going to be pushing up into this zone, the fair value gap on the 5M, then this is a protected zone. We should not see the market drop below this. But as mentioned before, I'm not interested in a buy. I want to see what the market does from here or here. The sell-off is going to be from here, or if it's going to be from here. There we go. So we've tapped into this 5M fair value gap. Now let's see if it goes higher. We're still red across the board. We have a red box. We had a huge drop downside. Just waiting for a a bearish confirmation now. I suspect we'll drop either from here or come all the way up to the 50, tap this zone, then drop. Just gotta wait and see. That's a telltale sign right there. You want to see a 5M bearish fair value gap be created now. Let's see if we find one on the 1M first. "16 seconds left. I'm going to get rid of this 4-hour fair value gap for now. About 35 seconds. Let's see if this 1M stays open. Seconds. Our bias is still bearish. Just wanted to know where the 1M was. So now when we get a 5M fair value gap, we want it to be below this. We want to take out the series of candles. So here's the series of candles that touched that 5M fair value gap. So essentially we want to have a candle close below this fair value gap. That will be a telltale sign that this thing wants to push down. 7 seconds left. Let's see if this continues pushing up or if we push back down immediately. So if this candle closes up here, that means this 1M has been violated. Looks like it's going for one more swipe. Let's see. About 10 minutes away from 11. So we've officially violated this fair value gap. I want to see a candle close below this red line. Until we see that, this thing could continue to just gesticulate and or move up. Candle body. I want to see a candle body close below that red line. Still nothing created on the 5M. Remember, I want to see it close. 18 seconds. Three. So nothing's closed below that red line yet. Maybe this next candle will. The second we have a candle close below this, we might have a tap into one of these fair value gaps, and then most likely a push down to give us our bearish confirmation. But let's see. Just be patient. .11 seconds. Still just bouncing off that area. So this market is unwilling to commit in either direction right now. "44 seconds. No 1M fair value gaps created here either, so just wait. It's important to wait for that candle close because it could just sweep out these lows and then continue up. 13 seconds and we have not. We want to see if this closes below that red line. Then it can use any one of, didn't really leave any fair value gap here, could use this inverse fair value gap here to just continue down now. So there's your closure below that red. Since that's the only value gap, inverse fair value gap I should say, or below the 20, could use this area to just continue pushing down and give us that bearish confirmation we've been looking for. Let's see. Okay, that's our second candle close below that red line. We've swept out these lows. Now I want to see this thing just start driving. Hopefully you guys have been reading the Market Watch. There's a lot of great insights there from industry professionals, analysts that are telling you exactly what their projections are. Also make sure you read the blogs are free. You can check those out. Anybody can take a look at those. So now I want to see this thing start driving down. Still no confirmation, still waiting for that confirmation. So it's bouncing off this fair value gap here, inverse fair value gap now that we've crossed over through it. There's the 20 EMA. We've also done what we call an early retracement. Anytime you do an early retracement, it means as soon as we do get confirmation, the market will just use whatever fair value gap is presented to keep pushing. And that's how quickly your bias can change. During the blue zone, our bias was bullish. We wanted to manipulate down and then look for an opportunity to go long. And now, during the spotlight indicator, we're waiting for that bearish confirmation, or at least our bias is to the downside until we get a confirmation. I'd like to see this thing ripped right down and just give us that bearish confirmation as soon as possible. I want to see displacement candles. Don't want to see too much of this back and forth. Otherwise, it just ends up like the morning. Still just stalled there at that inverse fair value gap at the 20. As mentioned before, I'd like to see this thing drop, give us our bearish confirmation. Could I take one more swipe up? Sure. I don't think we're going to get past this zone. Back at that 50, back at that inverse fair value gap. Let's see if we immediately shoot back down to take out these lows. That'll be the telltale sign that this thing's ready to just push down. Still just gesticulating in this area. Just waiting still. "37 seconds left, immediate reaction. Let's see if we get that engulfing candle, take out these lows. That'll confirm that drop. 20 seconds left. I could tell right from the morning session that it was going to be this kind of a day. No real definitive entries, a lot of back and forth. There you go. I want to see a candle take out this low and then just drop. Close. There you go. Those lows have been taken, so we're most likely heading now for that bearish confirmation. Again, heading back up. See, just a whole lot of mess. But now you don't want to see the market get above here. So if it takes out this high, then it's just going to be a whole bunch of back and forth. We might not even be interested. Bouncing again off that fair value gap. 32 seconds left. Looks like we're getting an engulfing candle here. Again, this thing wants to push down, just taking its time. Yeah, this is very messy. By this time, we should have at least gotten a confirmation or been close to a confirmation. So it looks like we're getting that drop. I want to see that bearish confirmation as soon as possible in the next 15 minutes so we can do something about it. There it goes. Doesn't make sense to take out this low without taking out these lows, because this was a protected low. The second you see a protected low fold, you can almost assume that the market wants to continue down, or in that direction, I should say. So let's get that bearish confirmation as soon as possible so we can do something about it. Spent an awful lot of time right here. So since we've already had this early retracement, even on the 5M, we've tapped that 20 and that zone. We're going to get that. Once we get that confirmation, I'm just looking for whatever fair value gap is created here to go one standard deviation. Just want to check my standard deviations are turned on. Usually we look at more than one market, but anytime we're coming in from the early entry, so anytime we go live from New York, we'll most likely stick to one asset since we've already done all the markups. So it looks like we're creating a fair value gap here that we want to see this thing stay open. We want to get our bearish confirmation. Then hopefully that becomes our fair value gap of interest. Got about 4 minutes left. I'll wait to paint this out. So I just filled it back in. Coming back up to touch that 20 again. Very reluctant to drop. Back at that fair value gap, that inverse fair value gap, I should say. So remember, this is these two right here. This is now a protected zone. So if the market punches through this, then we're not interested. It's past our time. We'll most likely not get the confirmation we're looking for. This goes to show you the manipulation, that there's no point. There's no reason for the market to be up here back at this fair value gap if it wants to drop. So 15 minutes left in our stream. We're obviously going to go to the end of our stream here, but this is not a market I'm interested in. This long before even getting a confirmation, this much back and forth, not only during the spotlight, during the blue zone. This is actually a hideous day. Let's go back up to the 5M. There's no fair value gaps here. Literally, the only one that was created was this one. Every other one got violated almost immediately, or there were none. On the 5M, it's created this engulfing candle, which is again showing us that maybe they want to take another swipe at this, take out these highs before dropping it. Either way, nothing of interest for us. No confirmation. Anytime you see 3 equal relative highs and or lows, that kind of consolidation, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, it's just going to be a messy day, and especially if there's no news. So we concluded the leap contest held by TradingView at 52%. So we had actualized our P&L was at 50. Sorry, our gains were at 52 something. We'll post that on our Instagram right now. We were sitting at 51, but we took one last trade before the contest closed. So that means in 27 days, just using the spotlight strategy and the blue zone strategy, we were able to accumulate 52%, a little over 52% gains. And we'll post the final numbers on our Instagram. And just to show you, our goal was not to win this contest, as mentioned before. There are many people that over leverage. There were people sitting at over 5,000% in 27 days. Majority of those trades were taken during the Asia session, but same strategy. Same exact strategy. I'll even go over it here. Looks like we're getting another bounce off that. Again, this is just too messy. Just going to jump back up to the 5M. We still got time. There's nothing really moving. So as mentioned before, each range has built within it a manipulation move. That's not just New York. Why is this not moving? It's very annoying with this lag time. So there's Asia's manipulation move. We have. Let me just turn the spotlight strategy off for a second here. So there's the green lines right there, painting out the manipulation zone for you. We manipulated up, and then we took it to the bottom of that manipulation zone and right into the purple zone. So for Asia, usually your targets are the new day opening gap and the purple zone. So very small range. I didn't even look at this. Lately, I've just been watching gold during the Asia session. So Asia's pretty clean. And then let's take a look at London. So London, we use the red zone for our manipulation. So those red lines. London is the only one that uses red lines for its manipulation move. Both Asia and New York use green. So we manipulated to the downside first. Didn't really create much of a 5M fair value gap, but then bounced off the purple zone. And unfortunately, we didn't sweep the London highs. The red zone highs. Gesticulated, and then eventually dropped. But Asia, London, depending on what time zone you're in, these are clean sessions. They don't have as much manipulation. That's pretty much how we won, not won, sorry. That's pretty much how we got the 52% gains in that contest, was during that session. We were trading gold though, but same thing, same strategy. Especially if you work early in the morning. Asia session starts roughly around 8. Between 8 and 8:15 is when you should get that confirmation roughly, Eastern Standard Time. So 10 minutes to go and we're still stuck in that zone, whole bunch of nothing. So after this candle, we'll do one more. If we have not gotten confirmation, we're going to conclude the session there. Yeah, again, just that kind of a day. We were hoping for a quick manipulation down into the blue zone before 10 o'clock, which we didn't get. And then we were waiting for the market to drop from here, which we're still waiting for, to get a bearish confirmation, which we still have not gotten. No news today. All the markets are low. This would have been a clean. See, this is the only thing that irritated me. I don't get FOMO anymore, but I can get irritated when I see the market come that close, because as soon as it had tapped here and gone under, that would have been the manipulation, and I would have rode that right into the blue zone. So I knew it was going to come back here. I just wanted it to first give me that manipulation, so it sealed the deal. Dealer revealed his hand. I could see that he wanted to go back to the blue zone. Instead, they didn't give me that. They just shot it back up, tapped the blue zone, dropped it. A minute, 55 seconds left. We'll do one more candle after that. And then alternatively, if we had gone swept up first, tap the blue zone, that would have been the manipulation, and I would have taken that past the purple zone all the way through the drop. But they played both sides. That is true manipulation. Looks like we're finally getting this drop. And look how high it came back up. Remember I said these were protected zones. It swept those. This is why this is not an interesting market for me anymore. Anytime you see this kind of blatant disrespect, I mean, again, still could still head in our direction, still take out these lows, give us that bearish confirmation, but that's not what we're looking for. Drops are probabilities. We are high probability traders. 70% or higher. And right now, this is 50-50. That's gambling. I don't like it. No confirmation this late. That's why we set those rules too. Somebody could sit here watching this for another hour, waiting for that confirmation. It's not worth it. Remember, time is money. Your time is valuable. I would conclude, come back during the Asia session where it's much cleaner. 8:15 Eastern Standard Time. You should have a confirmation. Follow the rest of your confluence. Make sure you see the setup. This is our last. After this candle, this is our last candle, the next one. We'll conclude the session there. I don't think we're going to get our confirmation. Look how tight this range was. Hard to find a consistent entry. When they don't give you any fair value gaps, any footholds, they don't want you to be a part of this. Who wants to go to a party they're not invited to? Still have a strong bias to the downside. So remember, when you have a New York session that's this much lower than London, then you got to trust all the levels that are presented by the spotlight indicator. They have their own levels built in. So when we're this below the levels, majority of New York candle closed, like if we're just counting from the candle bodies, is below all the levels from London. So then the purple zone is the only high point. But between the purple zone and price is our New York fair value gap. Like I painted that out for you guys, but it's right there painted by the indicator. That's also where the manipulation move took place. So it only made sense that the market wanted to come back up into this. And that's why I was waiting to see if it wanted to drop from here, which it looks like it is. It never presented a buy. I wasn't interested in a buy, but the only buy would have been from here to here. But it all happened after the range formation, so we switch over to the spotlight. So buy into that, and then that would have been the drop. That's what we were calling. I did not think that the market was going to get above this. I still don't think so. I think we're going to get that bearish confirmation, then a retracement, but it's all going to come too late, well past our point. That's all the market's done so far, is made us wait and watch. We got 51 seconds left on this candle close. We'll conclude our session there. So tomorrow is Wednesday, as mentioned before. This is a heavy news week. We will be live tomorrow. We will not be live on Thursday. And then tomorrow I want to go over the trades that we took today. Any trade that we're going to take today in the evening, we will possibly go over tomorrow. And depending on availability and time, we might even go live tonight at 8 Eastern Standard, 5 Pacific. So keep an eye open. See if you get that notification on YouTube. We're just trying to see if we have the availability to do that. And we will go over an Asia session for you just to show you how clean it is. It's in the afternoon. Most people get off work. They're relaxed. And here you go. Going all the way back up again. Just a whole bunch of nothing. So we didn't miss out on anything today. But that'll be our session. Please make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn on your notifications so you know when we're live. Check us out on Instagram, fractal.effects. We're always posting a lot of educational material up there. And we will see you guys either later this evening or tomorrow. Just keep an eye open for that notification. Take care.